As a lot of you know, replacing the bulb in a projector can be a really expensive thing to do. So what we have here is the bulb for a Panasonic PT AE 8000U projector. And I'm going to show you an easy way to replace the bulb and save some money. So when you pull this out, it just slides out of the projector and has some screws here on the other side, bottom here, on this side here, and there's one in the back that holds the plug here. Once you take those screws out, you can move the power up out of the way here, and the aluminum here for the heat sink of the bulb, because the bulb does get really hot, it is able to slide right out of this plastic housing here. When you slide the plastic housing down and the aluminum heatsink up, there's this little plate in here, and it just is a heat shield. And so it'll come loose and come out. So don't worry about that when you take this out. So once you have the light and the aluminum heatsink out, you can see that the bulb is held into place by these 3 clips. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and they're just a little metal. You pinch that in, and these clips will slide right out. Once these clips are removed, the bulb itself also just slides right out. So you can see as I'm doing this, I have gloves on, and being very careful not to touch the front lens here of the bulb. You want to try and avoid touching any of the lenses, or even the bulb itself with your bare hands, because you can do fingerprint oil on it, and it's very hard to clean, and it can damage the bulb and the projector. So definitely keep that in mind when you're doing this. Another thing to keep in mind while you're doing this is the polarity of this. You want to make sure that you match the same. As you can see, it's just this little plug, and then it comes down to these wires here, and they're just tack soldered onto the end there. And so all you really need to do is touch those with a hot soldering iron, and it'll come undone, and you can replace the bulb here. I didn't think about making a video when I was doing mine, so I don't have another bulb to show you how to do this, but it's fairly straightforward. These bulbs themselves you can pick up on Amazon for like $15–20. It's the exact same bulb that the projector uses, but at a fraction of a cost. You just gotta be able to do 2 little bits of soldering, and you're good to go. This is what one of those little clips looks like that holds the bulb in place here. I use this pair of needle nose, and here's the one that I removed here. Alright, now when you get these bulbs, they come like this. Alright, and there's no lens on the front. It's hollow in there. I can see, I can stick my finger here. This one is my old one. And you can see not much really to it. Highly reflective. You again want to use gloves when you do this. You do not want to touch the new one. And if you can read that, that is the style of the bulb here. Part numbers. But again, the replacement bulb is super cheap compared to the housing and everything else. And so you just basically pop this bulb out, you hit this this little connector with the solder here. You can see it's really not on there with very much solder at all. I mean, it's just literally tacked on there. So super easy to take off and put back on. So after you do that, then you just reassemble everything and you're good to go. One thing that you do want to pay attention to is this little notch for the heatsink here is where the wire goes. It doesn't really go any other way, so it's kind of hard to mess up. But just so you know, that is where the wires will end up going. Another thing that you're going to need when you do this is a little small screwdriver, or I like to use an X-Acto knife in order to bend that tab on here back up to lock that ring, or that tab in place here for holding the bulb in place. So this is what it'll look like with the tabs bent back out, and that will hold the bulb in place. I recommend using a little small screwdriver rather than the X-Acto knife, because it will break your tip of your X-Acto knife. So if you have an older blade, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so here we are with the tabs all back in place and the bulb installed, where we were very careful not to touch the lens, even with wearing our gloves. Same with the bulb, only touching the bulb with gloves. The one I ended up buying came with some white cotton gloves, so I used those along with the rubber gloves that I'm wearing now. This is the heat shield that I was referring to before, and it goes on the bottom of this plastic here. Just kind of see if I can do this. Slides in there, and one tab goes underneath this side and the other tab on this side. And when you slide the bulb in, this tab locks underneath the heat shield of the bulb. So, and again, there's only one way that this goes together. You'll see that when you take it apart and go to put it back together. This little round knob here slides into this channel on the housing for the projector bulb. So really straightforward and easy to do here. So here you can see I've slid it down. That little knob right there again goes in that channel. You can see we have our screws ready to go back in, the heat sink or the heat shield in place. There's where the other tab goes. For the plug, and that just goes back in this slot here, And once you have all of the screws back into place, this is changed and ready to go back in your projector. So again, screw goes here to hold that in place, and when you're ready, this will slide up into the projector like this, and you're good to go again. So this is how to change the bulb for your projector for, I think, 20 bucks, 25 bucks, something like that. Way cheaper than buying the whole housing and everything else. And other bulb projectors are similar as far as the taking it apart and putting it back together and changing the bulb. A lot of what you're paying for is the custom housing and things like that for the bulb. The bulbs are generally pretty readily available versus the custom housings for our projectors. So, but in any case, just be careful when you do this. Try to avoid touching it to avoid the oils on your hands and fingers on the lenses, especially this one. And you'll be all set and ready to change your bulb as well.